most, driving is just a mundane task between point A and point B. Nothing more. It's the frustration of traffic at 8 a.m. The feeling of sickness on a long ride. The car? Just a tool. It's supposed to be practical, reliable, and fast. But the speed is really the reason cars exist, born out of a necessity to make that A to B trip just a little bit faster. Some have a deeper connection with cars, found somewhere in the bond of man and machine, a desire to be part of something bigger than yourself. It's the extension of mind and body to something more exciting than just another appliance. And these people never cared about practicality or reliability. To them, the only thing that matters is speed. We're born with a competitive nature, part of a biological necessity that has not yet worn off with time. People have raced for thousands of years, and that competition has transcended history and found its way to the industrial age. Railroads raced to build across the country, replacing the horses whose strength is still used as a benchmark for power today. And as personal vehicles became popular, the railroads died off. What once was the quickest way across the country became snail's pace in comparison. The interstate highway system expanded and cars populated every driveway. And the competition between types of transport quickly transitioned into the race to have the fastest car. Bragging rights. Manufacturers like Porsche, Ferrari, and BMW emerged in auto racing, each trying to one-up the other. Building engines became an arms race. Who could build the fastest dinosaur-powered Landis? So while the passion for cars has died for most, there are still people that are fascinated by racing. The sights, the sounds, the smell of burning rubber and spent race fuel lingering in the air, this is what attracts us to the sport of auto racing. We are empowered by drivers that climb in impossibly fast cars and put everything on the line for the sake of competition. Drivers who know that one slip-up can lead to disaster. And for the longest time, wishing to be a race car driver was just a childhood dream. All we could ever be was a spectator. Opportunities? Limited and expensive. Reserved only for the who's who of the racing world. Until now.
Makes a mistake again. He missed a shift. He's going to spin to the inside turn. He's going to take the lead.
Eli Hinton just got used up there in the hairpin.
He's going to pick up a win after a long winless streak and visit victory lane. And the whole field just needs to get himself slowed down hot in these curves. Up and over. Here's Zach Buchanan running a 10. Great restart here for the 2 car, but also for the 48. He crosses him over. Down into turn 1. There goes the tail. Here comes the 20 alongside. The 13 car gets turned. He's going to spin in turn 2.
Welcome to round number 5 of the 2019 SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge. My name is Kyle Heyer alongside Finian Laguna and Peter Enzer for tonight's halfway point in the 2019 season. And so far we've been treated to some spectacular racing in these NC Miatas. And Finian, tonight we race at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Lexington, Ohio. And this racetrack is very challenging. Lots of elevation change, lots of slow corners, lots of fast corners. But one thing we know for sure is that the action's not going to stop. And we're going to see some spectacular racing again tonight.
Yeah, indeed. Really looking forward to how this race is going to play out. A slightly smaller than usual field, but I think it's almost a good thing just due to how tight this track is. We're going to see guys getting single file. It's going to be pretty hard to pass here.
Absolutely. So qualifying's underway right now, but we do have a special guest. We actually have two special guests with us tonight. One of them is Peter Enzer, who we're going to talk to a little bit later, but the other driver we have to talk to tonight is going to be Tom O'Gorman, who drives in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. We're going to talk to him right now, and we now welcome Tom O'Gorman into the booth. Tom, thank you for joining us tonight. I know you got a busy schedule. You're down in Watkins Glen for the weekend, but first of all, welcome. And we figured that Mid-Ohio is a pretty good place to bring you in, considering this is one of your home racetracks, and also we know that you've got a lot of experience around the sports car course.
Yeah, hey Kyle. I've been there once or twice, so we happy to talk about it.
All right, well, again, welcome here. But as an Ohio native, it's a kind of a home track to you here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Is there something special about this track in particular to you, or do you treat it the same as any other course when you come here?
No, it's definitely a special place for me, just because it's where I grew up spectating racing. It's where I got my dad started taking me there when I was about 3, and still in 2 or 3 years old, still in diapers, and I grew up on the hill spectating in the S's, and I know which races I wanted to watch, and we would go to every single spectator race that we could, and it's what lit the fire, and it's also where I got to do some of my first wheel-to-wheel races, 16, 17, 18 years later, as I got to start to get that ball rolling as well.
So once you got the ball rolling, of course, racing on the racetrack is so much different than just watching, as we all know. But tell me about the challenges of Mid-Ohio specifically, and the significance that it's played in your career, other than just starting it. What has this racetrack played in significance in your career? As once you jumped into it, how did that kind of affect your trajectory in your career?
Well, sure. First, the challenges of the track. It's considered one of the most technical tracks in the U.S. I would say it's one of the more technical tracks in general, and it's partially because it has a lot of corners that link together and a lot of corners that influence the next corner down the track. Where some of the other tracks around the country or around the world, you get bigger breaks with straightaways between all the corners. So it's extremely technical, especially from the S's down at turn 4 all the way back into Thunder Valley. But it kind of is a sneaky power track in a way where the lap times really come with getting off of the carousel and onto the front straight and getting out of the keyhole down the back straight really well. So if you can get out of those two corners and dig out of those two corners really well, that's where the meat of the lap time comes. But you can also get suckered into making mistakes that really compound once you get into those more technical sections. And then with all those corners linking together, you also end up with this challenging racetrack to actually race through traffic with, cooler with a spec series like the MX-5s where every car is the same. But for me, it taught me a lot of racecraft because I grew up racing. My first couple of races were at Mid-Ohio, and I was in a big multi-class field of SCCA club racing, and I was in one of the slowest cars in an improved touring car. But we made our speed in a really different way than all the other cars down the straight, so they were faster than us. So I kind of had to learn to manage traffic and learn to be a slower car in faster car traffic all at once when I started actually wheel-to-wheel racing there, on top of being, like I said, one of the more technical tracks to figure out how to link all the corners together and kind of manage all of that all at once.
Absolutely. And of course, we're sim racing tonight, and you're down at Watkins Glen for the Michelin Pilot Challenge on Saturday for the 4-hour event there. But one of the drivers in the Sunday race, the 6 hours of the Glen, Juan Pablo Montoya, he was quoted as saying that sim racing is what you make of it, and it's completely useless if you don't treat your virtual car as if it were real. Do you agree with this assessment, and why or why not?
To a point, I absolutely would. I agree with aspects of it, and I would challenge it in other ways. I grew up sim racing as well. I would imagine that Juan Pablo Montoya did not grow up sim racing for multiple reasons. But for me, growing up sim racing, I had no context to reality other than what was fast in the game. And once I learned to translate what worked in the game to real life, I found that I already knew things like line choice, and I could predict where the momentum of the car was going to go and the balance of the car, and there was a lot of things that translated. Ultimately, coming out of reality and going back into sim racing, I cannot treat sim racing like a real car. I find to be successful in sim racing, you have to remove reality from the equation and figure out what works in the simulator the best. There's always some level of exploiting the physics and exploiting the system, the electronic system that you're playing. that doesn't necessarily work in real life. On top of, you have to be able to remove your feel for the real car out of the equation and completely rely on your visual systems and your understanding of the physics in the game to really work. So if you can do that while maintaining your understanding of reality, you're still going to be successful.
All right, Tom. Well, thank you for that. But you kind of touched on this a little bit. It was saying that Juan might not have grown up in sim racing, but do you envision a future where sim racing is a necessary step in a racing career? Got a copy there, Tom? I think we lost him there briefly.
I
got you back.
Come through?
Yep, I got you again. Did you get that question?
I did. Sorry,
okay.
I rambled on. I rambled on, and I didn't realize I was gone.
Oh no, you're good.
So I'll start over. So I think there are aspects that I agree and aspects I don't agree. I grew up playing simulators and video games, and I didn't have any context for reality. So I was able to learn how to be fast in the video game solely on what worked in the video game, what made me fastest in the video. And I found that when I translated that to reality, I was able to understand how the momentum of the car worked, how to choose lines. There was a level of racecraft that I had inherently because I've been racing online for so long, and I understood all of that. But now I find, having so much experience in reality, trying to go apply that to the virtual world, I have to remove my understanding of reality from it, because there's always some level of exploiting the system, exploiting the physics of the game, whatever it is, that you have to be able to remove what should happen in reality or what you know of happening in reality from that to be truly, really fast in a simulator. On top of that, you have to be able to remove your expectation of feeling what's happening from the equation, because you're used to feeling the car underneath. You're used to feeling that, and if you are good at that in real life and you try to apply what you expect to happen to the game, it may not always happen. But if you become very fast in virtual world, a lot of that will translate to reality, and you can become successful in reality having applied that knowledge. If that makes sense.
Awesome. So I got a couple more questions for you before we're going to let you go. One of them relating to Mazda and Honda together, because Mazda and Honda are both very well known for their motorsport support. So while Mazda has us here tonight, obviously you're a Honda factory driver. How has Honda embraced grassroots racing and helped young drivers start their career?
Well, Honda, I think, is the most accessible in that, if you're almost comparing to Mazda, I guess. Mazda has a huge amount of support for grassroots motorsports in a spec context. There's Spec Miata, there's the Formula Ladder system. You can kind of the Mazda ladder is very apparent. Everyone has seen that. You can figure it out. It's pretty obvious. But to me, Honda is much more an enthusiast brand in a way that gets people involved in motorsports, whether they realize it or not. You get the kid that has his Civic and he loves making it his own in a way that makes him want to drive it, makes him want to get involved with some level of driving, which is inherently motorsports. And if you look across the scape of motorsports, with autocross, with club racing, with all of those things, without Honda actually having a truly spec series or a spot where people can come and flock and buy one single car and apply it to this specific class, Honda is almost nearly as successful in numbers, and I would say every bit as successful in support and in involvement and all that with both amateur racing and then professional racing, because whether they put it on a billboard quite like Mazda does, they exist at every level of professional motorsports as well as almost every level of grassroots motorsports. So you can totally climb the ladder with Honda in the same way that you can with Mazda.
All right, I got one more question. I lost you, trailed off there at the end there. I got one more question for you. Yep, I got you. One more question for you tonight. The SPEC MX-5 Challenge Series in the real world is a great way to get real wheel-to-wheel experience in a race car. But lots of your experience, however, is in multi-class racing, at least as of late. Tell us a little bit about the differences between racing a spec or one-make series versus a multi-class sports car series like you're in right now.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's a different animal for sure. That's a great question. I don't think people talk about that very much, but it's something I've definitely thought about, where spec racing teaches a very specific type of racecraft, and it's a racecraft that you, as the driver, have to be able to apply your quote unquote equivalent machinery, whether, there's probably nuances between them, but you're in the exact same equipment as everybody else. And it makes it so that you don't necessarily have to figure out how to apply your equipment in the way that it's strong versus the way their equipment may be strong. You have to make yourself as a driver overcome the equivalence of the equipment to succeed over every other driver. Most of my racing, like you said, has been in kind of what did you call it, multi-class, but even in the same class, the equipment's all different. So the cars make speed in different ways. Each car has its own inherent strengths and weaknesses. And you get a level of overcoming where another driver may or may not be as strong as you, but you also have to apply how your equipment is stronger in a certain area of the racetrack, or how to overcome your weaknesses where the car may or may not be as good, so that you're always up a leg over the other guy. So there's a level of offense and defense that comes into when your equipment is different, to me, versus when all the equipment's the same. It's kind of there's a good and a bad where you may not be able to wrap your mind around once you get into multi-class or multi-make racing, how to really exploit the strengths and weaknesses of your equipment. That spec racing kind of teaches you that racecraft style.
All right, Tom. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's a busy week for you. I know you're out having dinner or something, so I apologize for stealing you from that. But hey, I'm going to see you on Friday and Saturday. So great, good luck this weekend, and thank you for the great insight you gave us on club level racing and regional level racing. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and we'll see you on Friday.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Kyle. We'll talk to you later.
All right, have a good one. All right, so now we're going to jump back in here, and now we're going to welcome Peter Enzer to the booth. Peter has been waiting very patiently for us here to get complete with our interview with Tom O'Gorman. But, Finian, as we are qualifying here, we see Paul Darling at the top of the board, and I'd be remiss if I didn't announce that Paul Darling has just won, at least as of this week, has won the... I'm trying to remember the name of it. The SRF series, the official SRF series that SCCA put on via iRacing, and Paul Darling won the championship there. So Darling has been very successful in other aspects of iRacing tonight. He might start second here as long as he can hang on, as DJ Alessandrini goes to the top spot. Finian, DJ's been really, really good. Finished third in both races last week. Do you think he's going to be a shoe-in for the victory this week?
I wouldn't say a shoe-in. Is fairly close up into the top of the standings, but I mean, if anyone, I think if I were to say anyone would be a shoe-in, it would probably be either Alessandrini or Hartley. Hartley currently looks like he's going to sit in third place. He looks like he's going to sit there at least in third. We'll see if he might drop down the order, although I kind of doubt it at this point.
And again, we're going to welcome Peter Enzer to the booth. Peter was just at Road America competing in the Global MX-5 series this weekend, and Peter, if you have a moment, I'd like to ask you about qualifying specifically, because you mentioned how you didn't really qualify spectacularly at Road America. So if you're Thomas Bresci or Mitchell Peak right now, starting in 11th or 12th, is that too far back to get up to the front in this first race tonight?
No, it's not too far back. You can definitely get it done, especially in these cars. You know, like you said, it's a spec series, and all the cars are pretty equal. But qualifying up front makes it fair. And Mid-Ohio is a very technical track, so it's going to be a lot of mistakes, but the draft's not going to be as big to try to make passes on the straightaways.
Actually, we haven't even mentioned yet the difference in the layout tonight, Finian. The first race is going to be on the layout with the chicane after turn number 1, and that presents a unique challenge in its own right, because in race number 2, we're going to be cutting that straight, and that really adds a passing zone for race number 2. So race 1 going to be probably more challenging, don't you think?
Yeah, I definitely think so, especially because I imagine that most of these guys are more accustomed to the traditional layout without the chicane, so they kind of have to readjust here to take the chicane. And as you said, yeah, it does kind of eliminate a passing zone with the chicane, and as you kind of just follow through the keyhole, and we know that people love to make dive-bomb moves in the keyhole.
It's one of the best passing opportunities on this racetrack, and of course our itinerary for tonight, race number 1, coming up in just a moment here at 8:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a 20-minute sprint race with a 15 incident limit, and of course if you exceed those 15 incidents, you'll have a 2 championship point deduction for exceeding that. Race number 2 at about 9:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be a 30-minute race, a little bit longer, an incident limit of 17 with the same 2-point deduction for exceeding that limit. But it's going to be DJ Alessandrini, who was last week one of the drivers that was extremely competitive, and actually not last week, but last round. And he's going to sit on pole with Paul Darling, Robert Hartley in second and third, Jesse Stevens, Saxon, and the postman Chris Henn starting in sixth. And Finney, and another thing we just got word of right before the broadcast is that we're not going to go green at the start-finish line like you would normally in iRacing. We're actually going to get to start on the back straightaway, manually started by our one of our race administrators, Ryan Cobb.
Yeah, indeed. They're also gonna be watching to make sure, because the way iRacing works, once you get past the green flag line, which is the one on the pit road straight, you can do whatever you want. So they're gonna be policing guys, making sure they don't try to jump the system, make abuse of the system, and jump the start. So they will be policing that.
So you can see the grid scrolling along the left-hand side of your screen as we get ready to roll here shortly. Again, it's going to be a 20-minute race. And that's not really a whole lot of time for these drivers to make their way forward. And as Peter said, you definitely have the opportunity to move up. But one of the things Peter also mentioned, Finney, not as much draft, especially with that chicane layout. So it's going to be, this is a very technical racetrack. I would argue this is probably a little bit more difficult to pass on than tracks that we've been to lately, like Sonoma or Laguna Seca. But certainly a very challenging track in its own right. You see our field, again, it's a relatively small field here tonight, under 20 cars for race number 1. And what that means is that if you're at the back, you really have a chance anywhere. And Peter, Mid-Ohio, again, very challenging, but starting on the back straightaway, that's typically where you start here. You don't typically start at the start-finish line like iRacing is going to try to make us do, but starting down on the far side of the course definitely seems to be an improvement. How does that change the dynamics of a first lap around Mid-Ohio?
Well, it definitely changes a lot, because usually going through turn 1, that kind of sorts the field out by the time they get to the hairpin, which is the keyhole, and then it kind of eases the field out before they get to that section. But that quick right-left section that we're going to go through as technically turn 1 and 2, it's going to be very tight. And we already see a lot of mayhem in that corner when the field's spread out, but when guys are going to still be side by side, I think you could definitely see quite a few cars getting bumped off the track.
So field getting ready to go around for a pace lap. It'll be over a lap of pacing, or actually no, it'll be about a half a lap of pacing here with the field rolling off. Here we have one pro driver in the field, and you'll see them scrolling along the top of the ticker. They will be highlighted in gold. That driver is Jackson Robillard, who is also competing in the Global MX-5 Challenge at Road America this past weekend. And field's going to roll through the carousel here at the exit of the course. DJ Alessandrini, of course, on pole here. Now the pace car is going to peel off, and the green flag is technically going to fly. We're going to put it right back under caution here, because we're not going green until the back straight. Ryan Cobb, the race administrator, is going to wait, and we'll go green on that longer straightaway.
Yeah, and I also didn't realize this too, is that, remember, we run time races here, so the distance is going to be shortened by just a little bit.
Yeah, probably by about a minute and a half. And that's going to increase the urgency just a little bit, so everyone has to be very patient here this opening half a lap before they get on the throttle. And again, we're going to negotiate the chicane the first time through. Peter, have you raced the layout with the chicane here at Mid-Ohio before?
I actually haven't. Actually, I haven't been to Mid-Ohio at all. I'm going to be there twice in July, but I haven't been there at all yet. But I've seen plenty of races there.
Yeah, so this definitely adds a different dynamic, and hopefully Peter can use the iRacing service to get himself familiarized with this course before we head on in. And again, we want to thank Paradigm and Rick Motek and SPEC MX-5, of course, as we get ready to go racing here and waiting for that green flag. The sponsors, all the links you can find in the video description that have helped support this series as we near the halfway point for 2019. And waiting. And there it is. I believe we've gotten our green flag. Green flag flies, racing at Mid-Ohio, round number 1 of race 5 of the season.
Yeah, there you see guys peeling off. I see guys almost 3 wide in behind as we head off into turn 4.
And everyone on their tiptoes right now just trying to get themselves sorted out. This is probably one of the most hilly sections. Now in a higher horsepower car, you might have to worry about wheel spin. Not so much here, but the visibility is poor as you crest these hills. There's the 33, the postman Chris Henn, working his way around. Started 6th, trying to hang on to it for now. Behind them, there's Matt Busa and Thomas Bressi. Busa didn't qualify very well, Finney, and he's certainly going to move his way forward. He's won a couple races this season and trying to claw his way forward in the point standings.
Yeah, actually behind him, Jackson Robillard made some contact with the 22 of Jonathan White, and Fakachi goes around him.
Robillard, again, one of those pro drivers who will not be contending for the season end prize, which is over $4,000. And one of these drivers, the talented and lucky guys, oh, the 10 gets into the back of Fakachi in that number 51. And as I was saying, though, one of these lucky drivers are going to go to the end of the season, and if they win the championship, they'll get a chance to test one of these cars at Circuit of the Americas. And you see the 10 car trying to get by Fakachi, can't do it yet. DJ Alessandrini is going to lead and complete lap number 1.
He's going to lead lap 1, but Hartley's up in behind him. Hartley is definitely on pace with the 91, it seems, in these first few corners. We'll have to see as these guys get spread out, but I definitely think we should keep an eye on that 0-3.
Negotiating the chicane for the first time, Paul Darling, who just won the SCCA SRF Challenge within iRacing, and trying to get a second one of those championships in the iRacing, the officially sponsored by Real World Racing Series situations. And again, one of the other prizes offered by LevelUp Racing School. As you see all our partners scroll across the top right of the screen, we want to thank them again for coming on board as we now have just under 17 minutes left. Fakachi and the 10 of Robillard, and there's Jonathan DeCouger swinging to the outside, taking a look down into turn 4.
Yeah, these guys, they've got a battle going on. DeCouger trying to find his way around Robillard.
Oh, DeCouger and Robillard going to door each other heading down the hill. They've gotten past that section, that runoff area known as China Beach, that big gravel trap that traps race cars if you get off course. And they head down through the S's now and into the far side. And there's Mitchell Peak, Sam Scott, and Thomas Bresci all lined up from 12th, 13th to 14th. And Robillard off track again, just dragging some dirt, gets hit from the back. All sorts of sideways as he gets some help from DeCouger.
And Busa makes his attempt. He goes to the inside of DeCouger, but it's going to switch back here as they got the carousel.
Aggressive racing in the mid-pack. Out up front, it's still DJ Alessandrini. Hartley leads by half a second. Back here, Peter, I mean, we know up front you can kind of wait your turn and bump draft and just kind of wait a little while, but out back, if you're Steve Fakachi in 8th place right now, you kind of have to push the issue, don't you?
Yeah, really in the race, you want to try to gain as many spots as you can and try to put yourself in position to either catch up to the lead pack if there's a little gap, or just keep racing your way forward.
Jonathan DeCouger putting pressure on the 10 of Robillard in the mid-pack, but up front, it's all Alessandrini. Hartley 3/10 back, then it's Paul Darling, Nathan Saxon, Jesse Stevens in that purple number 13. He's trying to redeem himself after a couple of rough weeks and trying to claw his way forward. He started earlier tonight in 4th place. He's running 5th right now.
Yeah, indeed, this entire top 7 breaking away from the rest of the field, forming their own little lead pack up in the front.
Then it's Fakachi kind of in no man's land, and then you head back. But look at Hartley putting all sorts of pressure on the back of Alessandrini now with 15 minutes to go. These two have been trading blows a lot, but here's some guys trading blows back here. It's Bresci and Mitchell Peak changing positions for 12th, or at least trying to, as Samuel Scott goes up the outside. And now the track is going to switch back to drivers right here, and it looks like Scott might be able to wrestle this position away. Nope, Peak is going to re-clear him again.
Yeah, and I got a lot of switchbacks, especially in the middle sector of the track, and you're going through all sorts of hills, so very hard to make a pass done, so good job by him.
Matt Busa, again, earlier this season at VIR, remember that he didn't even have any practice at that racetrack, and something tells me he doesn't have any here tonight, starting so deep, but I guarantee you by the end of race 2, he's going to be up inside the top 5, right now sitting in 10th behind Robillard.
Yeah, really, this is a lot of just a learning experience, especially if you're lacking some practice. So kind of just settle in behind and get ready for the run here. And we'll see if you can get around Jackson Robillard and maybe even catch the leading pack.
And the leading pack being from DJ Alessandrini back to Jonathan White in 7th place. How about Jonathan White, by the way? The last couple rounds, he's been steadily and slowly increasing his pace, and now he's a solid top 10 driver. Well, maybe he could even crack the top 5 tonight. And Chris Henn right in front of him in the 6th spot, number 33. We nicknamed him the Postman after the last couple weeks, licking the stamp and sending it, as they would say. He's been a threat to win tonight, just kind of waiting in the wings and see if these front 5 get together.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious how long these front 5 are going to stay together, because I definitely think they can get a good enough run to make a pass, but so far it looks like they're just kind of riding it out.
Oh, I think Samuel Scott's been around. I think he's spun. Let's take a quick look and see. Oh, was there contact? Oh, for sure there was. It was the 98 of Scott and the 23 being driven by Jack Sanchez. And Sanchez gave the 98 the boot. They got together, slight contact there. They both continued, both losing a lot of ground. And the 98's got some pretty heavy damage, at least on the front end of that race car.
Yeah, it looked like he got hit in the wheel, so hopefully he doesn't have suspension damage, because that could really hurt his handling.
Oh, Matt Busa gets crossed up by Jonathan DeCouger here. This is back for 10th place. DeCouger's got the inside lane for a right-hander. And Busa giving plenty of room. Oh, was there contact with... That's Thomas Bresci in the 24. He's also had some surprisingly good runs lately, but running 12th right now.
Yeah, and the incident between the 98 of Samuel Scott and the 23 Jack Sanchez is under review by race control.
Interesting to see how they'll rule that. Of course, kind of the accordion effect heading into the corners. Peter, the accordion effect, of course, with a big field and cars running this close together, you got to be careful, maybe brake a little bit early if you're the 4th or 5th car in line. But Peter, as you were racing at Road America this past weekend, do you do anything actively to avoid getting caught up in a situation like that?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to take a little bit of a defensive line going into the corners, so people behind you can't attempt to make a pass. You really just have to pay attention to what's around you, and you do have to brake early if you have such a big run going down the straightaways in that draft.
And you see drivers just trying to avoid running into the back of each other, but that's what you kind of get with these long freight trains worth of cars. But it's still Alessandrini and Hartley up front. And Paul Darling running third right now. Then it's Nathan Sachs and Jesse Stevens, your top 5. And that teal car, that's Chris Henn in the 33, who, fitting at Laguna Seca, probably should have won at least one of those races, but blew a motor.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was really unfortunate to see that happen for him. I think he probably thinks he got robbed as he tries to go to the outside of Jesse Stevens in turn 5, but can't get it done. But yeah, I think he feels like he got robbed of that, and hopefully he has another shot at getting a victory throughout the season. Chris
Henn, of course, from Coram, New York, as he chases Jesse Stevens from Talmo, Georgia. And of course, the number at the top right of that graphic on the bottom is their I rating. Not relevant necessarily in this series, but it will tell you how talented a driver is in the official racing on iRacing side. Of course, Jesse Stevens with a 45.99. The average of all iRacers is 1,500. And of course, Chris Henn with a 6,095. Just goes to show you these guys are some of the best in the service.
And the 23 just got awarded a black flag. He's going to get a drive-through for causing that incident between him and the 98.
So a penalty for the 23 of Jack Sanchez for making contact with the 98 of Samuel Scott. And I guess I'm not surprised to see this. I guess we haven't seen a ton of penalties, but of course, sometimes, early in the race, tensions run a little bit high. You give someone the boot, but Sanchez wasn't able to get away with that one. He'll get a penalty, a drive-through. Thank you, Finian. And DJ Alessandrini leading right now. Robert Hartley tucked in behind. He's going to head to the inside for the lead, side by side out of the keyhole. Here they come.
Yeah, that was really, and some guys nailing the DRS sign behind as some guys were in the grass.
I bet you they wish they had DRS right now as they run a little bit wide, clipping the dirt on exit. The curbs aren't extremely wide here, but Hartley's certainly looking racy. With 10 minutes to go, he's putting on a show, trailing in behind points leader DJ Alessandrini. Takes another look to the inside.
Yeah, indeed, and I just got word from race control. There's another incident involving Jackson Robillard in the 10, and the 31 of Jonathan DeCoucher knocked DeCoucher all the way down into last place. So that incident between them is under review.
Yeah, let's take a look. Here it is. This was on the far side of the course. Oh, wow. That was... I have to imagine that the 10 car didn't even see that the 31 was to his outside, but that was pretty hard contact. Here's a couple more looks at it. They were coming down the hill, and the 10 just moves over and knocks the 31 right off the racetrack. That's certainly got to be either intentional or he just completely didn't know he was there, because he moves over hard left and just drills the 31 in the right side door.
Yeah, so that's our second. Admins are looks like they might be a little bit busy tonight, and I think that's just due to how twisty and tight this track is. Pretty hard to pass in some places, so guys get a little bit too desperate and they end up making mistakes, taking another competitor out. So,
yeah, and this is a prime opportunity for a lot of these drivers. Again, with the relatively small field, we're usually between 25 and 30 drivers, only 17 competing here tonight. That means that there's a lot of points on the line with a lot of drivers that are typically here, not here tonight. So you're going to be extra aggressive trying to get any spots you can. But Peter, when you're racing someone like that side by side, there's certainly got to be some kind of respect in leaving someone enough room to turn into the corner, not knocking them off track. But at least in Global MX-5, what's the is the rule just if the driver's there, you got to give him room, or is there an overlap rule that has to be established?
No, if the driver's there, you have to give him room. In the MX-5 Cup, quite a discussion about it this weekend, because everybody was trying to take everything they could get at Road America. But there's definitely a balance there. You want too much room and too much space, but you also have to respect those around you.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what we're running here. We're running rules mostly based off the Real World SPEC MX-5 Challenge Series, and they're overlap, sure, but if there's a driver there, these kind of race cars, you don't have infinite backup cars in your at your disposal, so you have to treat every race car like it's worth $1 million, and so that means if there's a car there, you got to give it room.
Update from race control: Jackson Lorbelar will be given a drive-through penalty for causing that incident between him and DeCoucher.
So a penalty for the 10. Thank you, Finney. A drive-through for that contact. Not surprised at that one either, but the admins, of course, have handing down a lot of penalties here early because of the car-to-car contact we're seeing, but they're definitely laying out a zero-tolerance policy early tonight.
Yeah, and also behind, Fakashi and Busa are starting to fight it out, battle for 8th place between them.
Yeah, these guys are all kind of all by themselves right now. That front group containing about 7 cars, and then Fakashi and Busa. But we said Busa is going to get quicker as the night goes on. Last time through, he was quicker than our leader. So that 34, that magenta car, is coming.
Yeah, definitely coming, but I mean, unfortunately, I think he's going to run out of time. He's just going to be just a little bit short of catching the lead pack, but definitely feel like he's learned quite a bit, gained a lot of speed. We could see that translating to race number 2.
And he goes, makes the move for 8th place right there and gets it. So Busa will take 8th away from Fakashi. Fakashi's going to fight back, though, not going to give this up very easily as they head down towards China Beach. And the 51 pulling alongside. As we do have a battle for the lead on our hands, we're going to take you there shortly. We're going to continue to watch this battle for 8th as it's an outbreaking game down into that corner, and they're going to complete it. So the 34 officially takes over the 4th spot. Let's head back to the top spot, though. It's Alessandrini, Hartley, Darling, Saxon, and Stevens. This top 5 has not changed since the beginning of the race.
Yeah, these guys have been very patient with each other, which is making me concerned because I wonder if they're being patient right now, what's it like when they're not going to be patient?
I guess we're going to find out. Nathan Saxon running 5th after starting 4th from Rhode Island, USA, and has some club or regional level racing experience. You see him drifting out wide before heading into the carousel. That 0-3 Hartley is putting all sorts of pressure on Alessandrini. Remember where we saw this last time? Actually, a lot of these top 5 or top 6 were actually competing at Sonoma for the victory. So, same story, different day for the top 5. Ooh, I almost knocked over the cone on corner exit there as they head down to the chicane again. In race number 2, we don't have to worry about this chicane. It won't exist. It'll be coned off. We'll be going straight next time through, which really adds a passing zone as DJ drifts a little wide in turn number 2, or actually, I don't even know what you call this now. Some contact behind. Chris Henn drills the back of Jesse Stevens.
Yeah, he had some momentum, wanted to carry it, but ended up making contact with Stevens and is still trying to find a way around that 13.
See the LevelUp Racing School sponsorship on the rear of that car. Of course, LevelUp, one of our partners here alongside Paradigm Shift, Winding Road Magazine, SPEC MX-5, and WeatherTech, as Chris Henn goes for a move down for 5th into turn 4.
Yeah, so Henn trying to move up some spots here, but Stevens playing defensive.
And Stevens is going to hang on for now, but they are losing touch with those front 4 cars, so Chris Henn doesn't have a whole lot of time to hang on here. He's just got to get around the 13 if he wants to have any shot at the win. We only have about 4 laps to go.
Yeah, these guys starting to run out of time, especially when they start to battle like this.
Ooh, DJ drops a wheel off course, and so does Jesse Stevens, a bit slow coming over the top of the hill. Heading into the carousel now, Hartley continues to put pressure on. Peter, at Mid-Ohio, it's a bit trickier to pass in a place like Road America, but do you still wait to the last lap to make your move, or are you going to make your move a bit earlier and try to hang on?
It depends how much speed you think you have and how close behind the cars, other cars are behind you. The pass as early as you can on the last lap, if not with 2 to go.
So about 3 to go this time through, so I think we'll see Hartley maybe put the pressure up a little bit. You see that 5th and 6th place car of J.C. Stevens, Chris Henn, and there's Jonathan White in 7th. They're losing a little bit of ground to these top 4. And Hartley waiting patiently, but that's brought Paul Darling and Nathan Saxon right up to their rear bumpers again. So if these front 2 get together, Darling or Saxon might have a shot at this.
Yeah, I was watching Hartley through the first couple of turns this lap, and he's running a much tighter line compared to Alessandrini. I think that 0-3 might be faster, but again, just kind of biding his time, waiting for the right moment to strike here.
That corner at Mid-Ohio, the keyhole, is a really interesting corner because you can take it a few different ways, but you see down into turn 4, jumping the curbs, that's Hartley following that blue number 91. Then they head into the twisty bits, downhill, uphill, downhill again.
Yeah, I definitely think Hartley, I'm seeing the way he's driving, it looks like he's really trying to find a way around the 91 now. So I think he's trying to go full thrust here, and he's going to try to find a way around this 91 here.
putting all the pressure on. He may wait to the last lap to make a move, but you said he looks like he's putting on, he's trying to get by the 91, but here he looks to the inside. That's not really a passing opportunity there. Maybe just trying to get out of the mirror and make DJ overshoot. And forcing a mistake. I think that's one of the keys to passing at a track that's difficult to pass at, Peter, is maybe just get out of the mirror and make that front driver overshoot his braking zone?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to make the other driver make a mistake if you try to fake passes, pop out when you can, and just an additional time and throw him off his marks a little bit.
And we have about 2 laps to go now. 2 minutes and 19 seconds left in this race as they full throttle into the chicane and swing that car back to the left, then into the keyhole to the right. Whoa, look at how much Hartley closes in on the back of that 91. He's going to try to cross him over, but again, this corner's just a little too tight to do a crossover successfully as they track out and drill the dirt on the exit of the curb.
Yeah, Hartley's been really good at the exit of that chicane, but again, just nowhere for him to really get alongside Alessandrini as he's able to defend that spot in the keyhole. And that pretty much ruins Hartley's run down the straightaway.
So Jesse Stevens has begun to reel back in. The 4th place car, Nathan Saxon, as Hartley got out of the mirror just again. He's really putting the pressure on now. Down into the twisty bits once again. Hartley closing. He's right on the bumper, and this is where you have to start wondering if you might use the bumper just a little bit to knock out that 91. Again, Alessandrini's leading by over a full round over the rest of the drivers in this championship, so he can probably afford to lose a race. I think Hartley knows that, and he's going to maybe just try to root him up out of the way, but he has 1.5 laps left to do it.
And also, I wonder too, what's Paul Darling got in his mind? Is he waiting for these two to make a move, maybe collide, or is he planning on fancying making a move by himself?
We're going to see that bright yellow number 55 has about 15 or 16 more opportunities if he can make every corner a passing zone, but that's not always the case. 58 seconds to go. This will be the last lap of this race. White flag in the air here at Mid-Ohio. Down into turn number 1 again. Ooh, Alessandrini dancing on the suspensions up over the curb. You don't want to cut that. That'll get you a nasty cut course penalty. But one more time through the chicane. We won't be running this in the second race of tonight.
Yeah, so final time through the chicane for the night for these guys. Here comes Hartley. He's been really good at setting up this corner here.
Well, he drifts out way wider that time. Maybe trying to apex later. He didn't tuck it in nice and neat like he has before. And now he's got a good run onto the back straightaway. We'll see if he can close it from up above.
There's Alessandrini starting to try to swerve just a little bit, break the draft.
Hartley's got a run. I don't know if it's going to be enough of a run to get there before the braking zone, so he'll have to do it on the far side of the course, but everyone's stuck in line right now. Again, this is a difficult track to pass at, so Hartley's got to make a move quick. He's running out of corners. Down the hill one more time. Half a lap left to go. Hartley's still on the rear bumper of DJ Alessandrini, but struggling to find a way around.
Yeah, he's running out of passing opportunities here. A lot of these sections are kind of just following one another.
Down a gear, over the crest, underneath the pedestrian bridge, and he's got really one more passing opportunity left in the carousel, then it'll be the checkered flag. DJ Alessandrini's led every single lap of this race from the pole over the curbs one final time. Hartley looking for a pass. Swings to the outside in the carousel. Does DJ make a mistake or does he hug the inside? He's going to hug it here over the curbs, coming back to the checkers. It's going to be DJ Alessandrini again tonight. It's been a bunch of wins this season. It'll be another one for the 91 tonight. He wins race number 1 of round 5 of the 2019 SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge. Behind him, not much has changed. Saxon Stevens rounds out your top 5. Chris Henn, Jonathan White, 6th and 7th. Busa comes home in 8th. And wow, that was close for those two.
Yeah, just got word, an incident, late in the running between the 21 and the 84.
Well, let's go find out what happened with those two. Was there... looking back about a half a lap here. This is heading down the hill. Same spot that we saw the 10 and 31 get together. Whoa. A spin there by Mitchell Peak. And how did this start? Look from up... trying to find a better angle here. Oh, that's just... To me, that's just a miscommunication of who's going where. I'm not really sure if they'll rule on that, but if they were to rule, I think you'd probably see it given to the 84.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 21 did turn in, but I think there's an expectation that the other car at least would make an attempt to turn in. But here's a look at your race results. Of course, Alessandrini, Hartley, Darling, Saxon, Stevens, your top 5. Busa gets a top 10, Fikachi as well. And Thomas Bresci stole a top 10 late in the going. Zanoa Wilson, that 84 collected in that incident with the 21 at Mitchell Peak. Zanoa finished 11th. Samuel Scott 12th. He recovered nicely from his spin. Jonathan DeCousier in 13th. Jack Sanchez in the 23 finished 16th. And Jackson Robillard in 15th. So 15th and 16th, those two drivers that got penalties. Mark Snodgrass in the 67 comes home in 17th. But that's going to do it for race number 1 here. No surprises up front, Alessandrini, Hartley, Darling, but a lot of incidents this race, for sure.
Yeah, the entire top 5 that started this race finished in the top 5, just in a slightly different order from where they started. But the man who started on pole, he came across the line in first place. And I think Alessandrini clearly showing that he's the man to beat tonight.
Yeah, well, he's the man to beat all season. That's he's just going to continue extending his points lead. But remember, it's not... you head into the last race of the season, and the final prize isn't just earned by the championship. It's almost like a NASCAR-style format where the last race of the season is going to be a head-to-head battle with the points leaders, and if you win that race, you will get to test a real SPEC MX-5 Cup car, or you'll get to choose a track day with full team support, or 2 days of LevelUp Racing School as your season-end prize. So, again, it's not a given that DJ Alessandrini is going to win this championship, but he's certainly looking like the driver to beat. We want to thank a couple sponsors, again, for coming on board. RicmoTech high-performance sim racing equipment. We know a lot of drivers in the field use RicmoTech stuff, and it helps improve. Finney, would you say that better racing equipment makes you more consistent? Because I sure would.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can definitely go for a much cheaper, racing setup. I remember I had a personal story with this. I went... Oops, sorry.
You're good.
Oh, I just got word from race control over the radio that 84 was blamed for that incident.
Interesting. Okay. You were saying?
Yeah, what I was saying, back to my story. I had the first setup I had for iRacing, I had a $40 setup with a wheel and pedals, and definitely was worth $40 because it didn't last too long. And the wheel only had, I think, went to 90 degrees on either side. I only had a brake and a throttle. And yeah, it would definitely help, but going to a Logitech G27, which is what I still use today, definitely probably the best investment I made so far. But definitely, yeah, if you want to invest money, get a direct drive wheel, get paddle shifter, the whole 9 yards, it definitely helps.
And RicmoTech's got a lot of performance sim racing equipment available, so you can check out their website, links in the description. And of course, we want to thank Paradigm Shift, a brand new sponsor the last couple of rounds. They're based in Atlanta, Georgia, and they're moving away from traditional driving instruction, and they bring racers a more up-to-date approach in their best-selling Science of Speed book series. But they teach philosophy described as a physics-based approach to finding the ideal racing line that has been then been distilled into an optimal but intuitive way for driving a race car. And on their website, you can find detailed track notes for many well-known tracks in North America and Europe. And of course, you can find their information in the video description, along with links to SPEC MX-5, as well as Winding Road and LevelUp Racing School. We want to thank again for offering season-end prizes. That's going to do it for race number 1. We're not done yet. We have a second race a little bit longer coming up shortly. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a few moments. Welcome back live to Winding Road Magazine and Sim TV for round number 5 of the 2019 SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge. We're just about to begin race number 2 in about 20 minutes here at 9:45. We have about 5 minutes left in practice. Of course, Robert Hartley, quickest right now in practice, Finian. He finished second in race number 1. What does he have to do differently this time to make sure that he gets in victory lane?
I think he's got to make sure. I think he's got to make that pass earlier. I thought he could have definitely lasted out until the end, but I think he's really got to wait until the end. Really got to make that pass early to beat Allison Drini.
You see now we have a track map for this version of the racetrack, and you see Hartley heading down towards turn number 4 and that runoff area known as China Beach. And then this is the tight and twisty bits that I was referring to earlier as we kind of crest the hill off to the left and then head down back to the right. This is a very technical section. You see running in 3rd gear right now. We're going to stay in 3rd through most of this section, maybe shifting to 4th briefly. And you see speeds between 60 and 90 miles an hour for the most part. You crest another hill, jog back to the right, then right again over another crest, then down a quick hill, shifting back to 4th, maybe even up into 5th gear before jogging into the left and heading into the carousel to round out this lap. Lap time's only a couple seconds quicker. We saw about 140s last time through. But one thing you didn't take a note of, Finney, was the track conditions. Let's take a look right here. Track temp is 116 degrees. That's pretty toasty.
Yeah, definitely pretty hot out there, especially considering the air temp is only 78. So the track's absorbed a lot of heat from the sun, making it pretty slippery for these guys.
See Robert Hartley going off track there towards the start-finish line. Jesse Stevens in the 13, a popular driver out there, sitting 2nd in practice right now. A couple drivers have not yet made laps in practice. Jonathan DeCousier, Chris Henn, Jack Sanchez, Mitchell Peak, those drivers. But where is DJ Alessandrini? He's only 5th right now at the moment.
Yeah, he's only 5th on the time sheet. We'll see if he can improve as he just runs a bit off the track in turn 1.
And you see there's Chris Henn in the background, ended up finishing 6th in the first race of tonight, looking to improve a little bit. They're right behind. You see Matt Busso way off course. Wow, he's going to hit the wall hard at the exit at turn number 1. Big impact. He's going to roll up on his roof and get a hit from the 13 of Jesse Stevens. But we were talking over the break with Peter about this weekend's race at Watkins Glen. And, you know, very different racetracks, but relatively close on the map. Watkins Glen being a much more brute force, high-speed racetrack. Of course, that's where IMSA's going this weekend for the Salem 6 Hours of the Glen and the Michelin Pilot Challenge 4-hour race on Saturday, along with a couple other support races with the Porsche Cup Series and the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series, the American version of it. And Mid-Ohio, definitely a very different racetrack. A lot more tight, twisty, and technical. And Finian, it's a racetrack that I've never really been great at with an iRacing. I didn't like this track solely because it was so challenging.
Yeah, it definitely is probably one of the more challenging American tracks. A lot of the American tracks are pretty flowy, not, I wouldn't say technical in some ways, but I think Mid-Ohio definitely takes the cake, especially for its middle and last sector. Very challenging, a lot of switchbacks, constantly going left, right, and left all over hills where you can't really see the apex half the time, so fairly challenging, especially once you get in faster cars, but even in the slower cars it presents its own challenges.
And a few states to the northwest is Road America. That's where Peter Enzer was this last weekend. Peter, tell us about Road America and driving a car like this, these MX-5s, around a racetrack that's almost 5 miles in length and is really more straightaway than corners.
Yeah, Road America as a whole, compared to Mid-Ohio, it's all about the draft. Even if you're not quite as fast as the leaders, you can still stay in that lead pack just because of that draft. It's worth multiple seconds a lap. In these cars, you really have to stay with that draft. You want to conserve as much momentum as you can through the corners just because the straightaways are so long.
Yeah, so long straightaways at Road America, and now we've kind of extended the straightaways here a little bit with this layout. You see at the top right of your screen, at the very top right, that is the keyhole. Turn 2. I don't even know. I don't think they really count that as turn 3. It's really just turn 2 over there at the top right. But those 2 straightaways that are connected to it, Finian, leading to some of our best passing zones of the evening.
Yeah, and I feel, especially, honestly, personally, I'm just going to say it now, I don't really like the layout with the chicane, just because it takes out quite a bit of flow to the first part of the track, so I really am interested in seeing how our driver is going to take advantage of the chicane not being there, and if they're actually going to try to make it passes.
All right, so just waiting for practice to conclude, and then it's again another 15-minute qualifying session. So if you just want to join us for the race, you'll be back here promptly at 9:45 for the green flag. Again, we'll be taking the green on the back straightaway as opposed to the front straight that usually is run here in iRacing. And as we take a look at our track conditions, 118, so quickly rising, Finian. Track temps, Peter, at Road America, you know, that's another racetrack that tends to get baked in the sun quite a bit. How much do these little MX-5s get affected by the track temperature?
That's with track temperature. Track dependent, some are more sensitive to it than others. But with how much we're pushing through the corners, trying to make that lap time and conserve as much momentum as possible, a little change in track temperature can make a pretty big difference in setups. A lot slicker, just based on the increased temperature, like we had at America last weekend on Friday compared to Saturday.
And you mentioned the, you know, changing the setup. That's definitely a challenge because here tonight, Finian, we can't change the setups. They're locked and they're not default. We have John D. Allen, a former SPEC MX-5 Challenge driver. He has created the setups for this series, and they are not changeable. So you really have to adapt, and you have to adapt very quickly. And that's something that I expect Matt Busa to do quite well. 7th in practice. I think we didn't really see everything he was capable of in the race number 1. So as we qualify for race 2, I think we'll see him do a bit better here.
Yeah, indeed. Fixed setups put in place to make this more about the drivers. Really, you can't change that much with the setups, even in these cars, but definitely done to make it so that it's pretty much down to the driver, not really down to the setup.
So as we get underway for qualifying, again, 15 minutes on the board, and we want to talk briefly about the iRacing service, because, Finian, you and I have used this for a long time, you longer than me, for sure. But we just got back into this a couple years ago, and, you know, iRacing has advanced so much since we've re-upped our subscriptions back in December of, what was it? Was it 2017?
2017, yeah.
But since then, we've gotten day-to-night transitions. We've gotten a lot of particle effects. There's a new damage model on the way, new sound model coming. You know, an addition of, now you can have 7 different kinds of cars in one server. So much has changed, but, you know, we still keep returning to the sim. There's so many options out there for sim racing in general. You know, Assetto Corsa, there's the Brazilian stock car simulator, there's F1 2019 that just came out the other day. There's all sorts of simulators, Enter 2003. You know, but iRacing just does everything all around very, very well. And they've just add the addition of the Lucas Oil off-road trucks. So if you're looking for racing of any kind, I think iRacing's the place to go.
Yeah, especially if you're looking for competitive online racing. I think they've pretty much cornered the market in that respect. So if you want to look for competitive racing against other drivers around the world, this is definitely the go-to place for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think look at iRacing as, you know, it's got a lot right, and there's not a lot of sims that have this much right. Now, it's not without its issues, but I think it's worth it, and a lot of people are scared away by the subscription model, but what a lot of people might not know is that you can actually get paid to race. If you participate in iRacing, you can get up to, is it $10 in credits per season?
$10 a season, yep.
So you can actually, if you actually participate and run at least 8 of 12 weeks in the season, you can get $10 of your money back each season.
And it doesn't matter where you finish. You just gotta finish the race.
Right, and I think a lot of people kind of forget about that, and people think iRacing's expensive. Well, it's not really that bad. If you consider this, if you treat this like a hobby and not like a game, if you go to the racetrack, you're spending hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars each weekend to race competitively. Well, iRacing, you can do it for a lot less than that, and even unless you're buying cars and tracks every single day, you can really make this sim last a long time for you as a hobby, and you can get a lot out of it. But there's also, for the drivers that want some more experience and want to go to a higher level and actually race in the real world, well, take a look at SPEC MX-5. I mean, especially if you're down in the Austin, Texas area near Circuit of the Americas, and you're near Winding Road, you should really check the series out. It's basically you pay one time, you show up to the racetrack, the car is ready to roll, and they transport everything for you, and it's just really a great way to get your feet wet in sports car racing at a competitive level and get yourself noticed where you could potentially work your way up the ladder. And so qualifying underway, about 11 and a half minutes left. Again, this is our second race tonight. Here's our format. Of course, we're delayed about 10 minutes off this. We'll be going green at 9:45 tonight for our 30-minute sprint race. An incident limit of 17. We saw a little argy-bargy, as John Heinhoff would say. And I think we might see a little bit more of that, especially the aggression's going to pick up towards the front. I think drivers have figured out it's pretty difficult to pass here. You might need to use the bumper to get on by.
Yep, and guys have come across the line. Some guys putting their first times of the session down, so Allison Drini is going to top the charts. Only 5 guys have put times down, 6 as it continues to grow, with Allison Drini with a 138.8. Matt Busa is in second with a 139.1, so Busa definitely improving off of what he ran in race number 1, so I think he's going to be competitive in the second race.
Yeah, I think Busa certainly is in a great spot to win this race, and I'll go that far to say that. Again, we talked about how, at VIR, the first race of the season, had never even done a single lap of the track, and then was competing for the win and lost out ultimately to DJ Alessandrini. But he heads out for a second lap with some fresh Yokohama tires on that car. You can see all the sponsors on the side panel of that machine. So, Peter, qualifying for this race, it's a little bit longer, 30 minutes in length. After seeing what you saw in race number 1, with drivers in the top 5 not being able to make a pass, how does that change your attitude as a driver heading into the last 2 laps of this race? Are you going to be more aggressive, or do you just plan it out differently and just execute more in a different way?
No, you definitely want to be more aggressive than the drivers were in the first race. We didn't see a lot of action. I think people really couldn't quite make it happen, so you're going to see a lot more attempts at passes this race, for sure.
Alright, so Chris Henn working his way across the line. He jumps up to 5th on the board. Whoa, got in the grass and heading into turn 1 and got a piece of the wall. And just ahead we saw Paul Darling, who we mentioned in race number 1, won the SCCA-sponsored SRF series that was done via iRacing. So he won that championship a few weeks ago and continues his bid for the title in this series. A lot of resetting back to the pits, Vinny. Do you think that has to do with track conditions?
I think with track conditions, but I definitely think there's a lot of guys trying to get some fresh tires on these cars. You might not think that these tires will wear out a lot, and you're right, they don't really wear out that much, but again, these guys are fighting for every single 10th of a second, every single 100th of a second they can get, so they're just keep resetting with fresh cars, getting back out there and putting more laps down. And Hartley only down with a 139.2, only in 4th, so he has to improve a little bit. How about Jonathan White with a quick time, putting him in 3rd?
Yeah, Jonathan White with a 139.211, but DJ Alessandrini tops the board again. Now, if you're sitting in second on the last lap and you're following DJ Alessandrini, he's won a bunch of races, he's leading the points by over a full race. Do you risk potentially getting a penalty to get on by the 91?
It depends on how much you want to win, really. I guess it kind of depends on the driver. A lot of drivers have a lot more to fight for, looking at the bigger picture, and don't think they want to risk a penalty potentially later in the season, or just a points penalty in general. So I think guys in the top part of the standings probably not going to do that, but a guy maybe lower in the standings, probably not looking at the championship picture, they might try something just to try to get a win.
One thing I've been noticing a little bit throughout this session is I've heard a couple engines grenading, and we saw this at Laguna Seca a bunch, is that people were downshifting their cars a little bit early and over-revving the engine. And Peter, I want to ask you this question, is that in a car like this, it's a momentum car where you want to carry as much speed as possible, but how much do you rely on the transmission to engine brake, or do you not want to at all and just use the brakes to stop the car?
No, you want to a little bit. It definitely helps. You really want to be careful not to overrev the engine and damage it. Really, these momentum cars, it's all about maximizing everything that you can. So that little bit of engine braking will definitely help slow down the car just a little bit more, a little bit faster. You can charge the brakes a little bit harder.
Yeah, so there's definitely risk versus reward with using that engine braking to slow the car down a little bit more, but we've seen these engines, at least in iRacing, are kind of made of glass, and if you downshift a little too early, you're going to blow your engine. There's no coming back from that. Once that engine blows, your day is done, and I don't think the drivers at the top of the standings can really afford to make much of a mistake with how consistent the top 5 really are.
Yeah, and these guys got to balance a fine line, though. They can't just completely be off. They have to make sure that they're on pace, but also not ruining their equipment. And it's a very fine line you have to balance. And we saw that bite Chris Henn at Coda, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Actually, I think it was Jesse Stevens at Coda that blew the motor.
Stevens.
Chris Henn did blow his motor at Laguna Seca, along with Paul Darling in the 55.
Yeah, so definitely a lot of, and those are the guys that we usually see up at the top of the running order, and just one mistake it sets them all the way back quite a few positions.
So, are you surprised to see 3 cars sitting in pit lane? Mark Snodgrass, Zenoa Wilson, and Jackson Robillard. They're just kind of hanging out there, Finian, and Robillard hasn't put a time in yet. Do you think he's just going to start from the back?
He might choose to start from the back. Zenoa Wilson, I know he might not probably get back out there because he's got a penalty incoming for him. Was talking with race control during the break and found out. So the penalty that Wilson got, he wasn't able to obviously serve it because that happened on the last lap. So the penalty for him will be starting at the tail end of the field for this race.
For the 84.
Yes.
Okay, so again, that penalty from the 84 for Zenoa Wilson on the last lap of the previous race had an issue and ended up getting into the side of another driver, and he's going to start from the tail end of the field. And again, we're looking from high above. You see on the left-hand side of the screen, the car is driving away from you. That is going to be the front straightaway. You see the flag stand there, very tiny in the middle of the screen. We're starting there manually. Usually iRacing would start you in the middle of the screen on the front straight by the pit road, but we're going to drive all the way around and go green on the back straight, just to emulate how the real world would run this series. You see Paul Darling leaving the pits for maybe one last effort. Robert Hartley jumps to the top of the board with a 1:38.755. A great effort by him to get in front of DJ Alessandrini.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was waiting for. So how is Alessandrini going to respond? And he comes out of the pit, so I think immediately, that was pretty much immediately, so he's out and running, and I think he's going to get ready to put down a lap. He might only be able to put down one more time.
Yeah, I think he might be able to get 2, but really only 1 competitive lap. We've seen that the tires were burn off pretty quickly in this 120-degree track temperature, so it's really a one-hit wonder for these qualifiers right now. Everyone has taken time except for the Lieutenant Jackson Robillard, but Zenoa Wilson, who's currently 16th, he will start 17th. At the end of tonight, or at the end of qualifying, rather, because of the penalty that is being served from the end of last race. So relatively close field amongst the middle here, and between a lot of the gaps, there's only a couple thousandths of a second. And from 1st to 10th, 9/10 of a second around a racetrack that is over 2 miles in length. Where's Alessandrini? He's on the far side of the course now, heading under the Honda Bridge. We'll ride on board here. Oh, he's actually still on his out lap. And look, he's coasting right now, Finney. Why would he be doing that?
And I think that he's doing that to preserve the tires. Again, just try not to use them up. And even Paul Darling doing the same. He's following at the same pace as Alessandrini, just preserving those tires until he really has to use them.
And keeping those tires cool. Of course, DJ Alessandrini from Lakewood. And runs in autocross and also runs the Grid Life Touring Cup, which I want to talk about that for a minute because I don't think I've had a chance to chat about Grid Life very much. And I was there at Grid Life Midwest about a month ago now. Gosh, time flies. But I was there commentating the Grid Life Touring Cup, and that's another way to wheel-to-wheel race in more of a multi-car environment, not a spec series by any stretch, but the cars are basically equalized by power-to-weight ratio, and it makes for a really interesting car and class combination. And DJ Alessandrini and a couple other drivers that we're familiar with compete in the Grid Life Touring Cup, and DJ finished inside the top 5 for every race that weekend. So
and speaking of Alessandrini, just comes out of the keyhole. He's got Paul Darling behind him, and Darling's going to get the draft here, so curious how this 55 time is going to improve.
So riding on board, you see him right now is approaching 115, 117 miles an hour, 119 top speed before jumping on the binders, hitting the curbs for turns 4 and 5. And Darling's best time was a 39.3, which is 6/10 off of pole sitter Robert Hartley. And this will be their last... Actually, they'll have one more attempt here because it's open qualifying. They'll get a chance to complete the lap that they start. But Darling is definitely making up ground on DJ here, so it'll be interesting to see where they line up here in times. The drifting out to the curbs and into the carousel. This is a really interesting corner to take, Finian. You can enter it a bunch of different ways. You can exit it a bunch of different ways. You've seen a lot of drivers kind of enter the middle of the racetrack, pull it hard to the right before exiting onto the front straight. And just like that, DJ puts in another time, a 1:39.278, and it's not going to be enough to beat his best time.
Yeah, however, Paul Darling, he jumps up a few spots. He's going to move himself up into 4th, riding him behind Alessandrini. And Alessandrini, I think he's going to continue to try to improve on that time, but I don't think he will.
Yeah, he's got one more opportunity with a minute left in qualifying before we go racing for race number 2. Again, a 30-minute race, 10 minutes longer than race 1. We saw the top 5 really not shift around very much. I think we'll see a very different event this time through.
Also, Jesse Stevens, he jumps up into 3rd place after putting out a solid time, almost 1:39 flat.
And Stevens has also been very competitive this season, but really has had a lot more bad luck than the rest of the field combined, and looking for a victory to kind of offset that a little bit. Currently P3, as you noted. And Jonathan White has been bumped back to 6th throughout this process, but he's, again, I've noted how he's slowly been working his way up the order the last couple rounds, and he's starting to be a threat for consistent podiums, which by the end of the season, he could be a threat. Now, remember, we're about halfway through the season, and we kind of head to some larger racetracks in the near future. And that means that the draft is going to be very important. Really, the only racetrack that I'd say the draft has been ultra important so far has probably been Circuit of the Americas, which was round number 3. We're in round 5 now, and we're about to change over to a list of some longer racetracks. So Jonathan White's going to come through to complete this lap. Does DJ improve this time? Across the line, where's he going to be? A 1:39.149, not going to be good enough to improve. And it was also invalid, I believe. Paul Darling doesn't improve either, neither does the 22 of Jonathan White. So qualifying concluded. And we'll take this time. Go ahead, Finney.
I was going to say, yeah, pretty much it looks like most people are going to remain where they were lap before. So no one really able to improve, but Hartley's going to be starting from pole. So we might see a changing of the guard here between Hartley and Alessandrini. So we might see Hartley up in the lead for most of this race.
Well, we know it's one thing to be as quick as another driver, but it's a whole other thing to pass. So I'm curious if DJ will have as much trouble passing Hartley as Hartley had trouble passing DJ in race number 1. So looking above the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, getting ready for race number 2 of round 5. And again, we've seen a lot of patience so far from the guys at the front of the field, and a lot of impatience towards the rear. Peter, do you expect the impatience to pick up in this race? Or do you think it'll be much more of the same?
I don't think it'll be radically different from the last race, but I do think it'll be a little more. We saw some incidents and some impatience in the last race, but more intense. It is a longer race, but the sense of urgency is still going to be there.
All right, so gearing up for the second race, 45 seconds left in qualifying. The only car left out on track is Jack Sanchez in the 23. He was one of the 3 drivers to receive penalties in race number 1 for car contact. And as we look from high above the racetrack, Finney, and I see some clouds moving over the course, and that might drop our track temp. It's already dropped 10 degrees back to 108 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's going to change things significantly. Now it's 107. Look how fast that temperature is dropping.
Yeah, it's starting to drop pretty fast, although I don't know if we're going to still have the clouds over the track when we switch over to the race. We'll have to see if that carries over.
So Robert Hartley is going to sit on pole for race number 2. It'll be DJ Alessandrini, Jesse Stevens, Matt Busa, Paul Darling, your top 5. Then Jonathan White, Chris Henn, Nathan Saxon, Mitchell Peak, and Thomas Bressie, the rest of your grid inside the top 10 at least. So Bressie's going to pick up where he left off in that position number 10 as the clouds clear for the race. And again, we have a pace lap all the way to the back straight. We're not going on green at the start-finish line like we typically would in a normal iRacing race. So the field's going to grid up. And predictions for this one, Finian, who you got winning this time?
Well, I think we're seeing a pattern of this track favoring the pole sitter, so I would think that Hartley's probably going to take it, but you never know. Alessandrini, very fast driver, man, leading the point standing, so we'll see if he can be creative enough to get around Hartley.
Your grid scrolling along the left-hand side of your screen. 10 drivers at a time. Jackson Robillard will be starting in 17th, dead last for this race. Did not put a lap time in, but it's going to be Noah Wilson that'll bring up the tail after he got his penalty in race 1. And is waiting for Jonathan DeCouger and Chris Henn to grid to go racing. What about drivers like Jesse Stevens kind of waiting in line? He'll be starting in P3. I think he might have something to say about this victory, especially if these front two get a little messy with each other, which I could see happening. We know DJ is quite aggressive. We know Hartley isn't necessarily desperate for another victory this season, but I don't think he would be afraid to throw a block or something to try to keep that 91 behind him. So it's the calm before the storm. About 30 seconds till we get rolling. And how about Matt Busa? I think we're really underestimating. We've talked about him so far as a guy that can quickly adapt, but I think we're pretty underestimating how quickly he could get to the lead here if he gets by the 91 of DJ Alessandrini and goes for the top spot. I think that 34 has as good a chance to win as anybody right now.
Yeah, and especially because we didn't really get to see him up in the mix with the leading mix of the top 5 in the last race. So here he is now up in pretty much in the middle of the mix in 4th, and we'll see what he can do with his pace, if he can try to maybe eke out the lead here, or if he'll be stuck in behind these guys.
So field putting their cars into gear. It'll be 30 minutes, so the 34 rolling backwards on the grid as he gets bumped up and starting again. I want to thank our sponsors for coming on board again. LevelUp Racing School, Rick Motec, Paradigm Shift, Winding Road, and SPEC MX-5, and allowing us to be here tonight. And we want to give Winding Road a special thank you for allowing us to use our YouTube channel. Of course, we're not from Winding Road. We don't work for Winding Road, but we are from a little YouTube channel called SimTV over at www.simtv, or, well, actually, you could go to our website, or youtube.com/SimTV Broadcasting. I tried to plug ourselves and didn't even do it right.
Yeah,
there's the link. I got a graphic with the link on it. Just go there. And there's some other fun stuff coming up on SimTV the next couple days. On Saturday night, it's going to be the Outsider Racing League. They'll be racing their second round of their chase. They've been a spectacular group to watch so far, so it'll be 10 p.m. Saturday night. And we do all sorts of broadcasting between stock car stuff, sports car stuff, off-road trucks. Grid Life's doing a series with us on Tuesday nights for the next 3 weeks. And that'll be fun to watch as well. It already had their first round last night from Brands Hatch and from VIR. So field gridding up to go racing, waiting on the green flag to fly. It'll be Ryan Cobb up in the stands waving that green flag, and we're just waiting to roll through the keyhole to get it done.
Yeah, everyone lining up here. So a slightly different order from the first race. Some new guys up towards the front, new pole sitter, and we'll see what happens as you guys head off into turn 4.
Green flag flies, and we're racing again here at Mid-Ohio as Robert Hartley's going to take off and bring 13 of Jesse Stevens with him. The 91 of DJ Alessandrini tries to force his way in between, and he does successfully. Busa swings to the outside lane. He's going to take a look around the 13 of Jesse Stevens as they head down towards turn 4.
Ready to come. Ooh, Stevens gets to Alessandrini. They make some contact as well as Busa loose, but he's going to keep it under control. Stevens is going to drop back to 3rd, however. Busa is going to make contact with Alessandrini. Alessandrini goes off the track.
Wow, Alessandrini gets loose, and he's going to slide off the track. There's another car spinning. I think it's the... I couldn't see who it was. It was Thomas Bresci in the 24. He got the short end of the stick in that, but so did the 91, and that's another car stop. That's Jonathan DeCouger in the 31. He's reset. So a crazy start here. It's a quick replay of what happened. It was the 24 out back. He got kind of knocked off the track by, I believe it was Mitchell Peak off the bumper of the 10. And then just up ahead of them, it was DJ Alessandrini. You got a boot from the 34 of Busa. And that was, I think, the 91 turning in, didn't know Busa was there. So drama here, the early going. DJ's falling all the way to 10th. But for the top spot, it's Hartley and Busa, the top 2.
And a lot of carnage in the first lap, a lot of changing of the order. So here we got Hartley as they come across the line. Hartley in first place, Busa second, Stevens in 3rd.
In the background, you see Jackson Robillard and DJ Alessandrini fighting for 9th. Remember, Robillard was penalized and started from the tail of the field. He's all the way up to 9th place and getting back by DJ Alessandrini.
And word from race control, incident between the 91 and the 34 is going to be under review.
Ooh, that'll be an interesting one to see how they call that.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because if it goes to the 91, it's going to be a huge blow.
It could be. You still lead the standings by over a full race, but you certainly can't afford to give up anything here. As you see the 91 and the 51, that's Steve Ficacci fighting for 9th on the back straight. Jackson Robillard has fallen behind. No battle out front right now. This is the fight to watch.
so everyone kind of trying to get sorted out here.
Ooh, Sam Scott slow on the back straight here, Finney. I'm not sure what's up with him, but letting the Thomas Bresci machine back on through. And DJ's got to be patient working his way through the field. I'm really curious to see how they rule that incident. I would be surprised if they didn't call it a racing incident, but DJ could be facing the penalty here, or it could be the 34 Matt Busa.
Yeah, it could be. Also getting word incident between the 21 and the 24 is also under review.
Yeah, I'd also be surprised if they called that one, because I think that the 21 of Mitchell Peak had a bumper from the 10 of Jackson Robillard helping him into the 24. So I don't know if I'd call that on the 21 of Mitchell Peak, but we'll see how they rule it here. So Noah Wilson out back. He started at the tail, getting around Jack Sanchez for 12th. The big battle going on right now for 4th place. It's Darling that has it, then it's Jonathan White, Chris Henn, Nathan Saxon. Running 4th, 5th, and 6th. So, Peter, have you had a chance to see those incidents yet, and what's your opinion on both those?
Yeah, I did get to see both of them. Like first lap carnage, a little bit, mainly racing incidents, I'd say. Front to back contact of cars just stacking up. It's pretty hard to avoid sometimes.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. They're probably going to be ruled as racing incidents, but we'll wait for Finian to tell us what the situation is. As you see Robert Hartley trying to break the draft from Matt Busa, who's only 0.6 of a second behind. And then it's Jesse Stevens, Paul Darling, Jonathan White riding out your top 5. Then the postman, Chris Henn, sitting in 6th right now.
Yeah, and Busa last time through, he was about 0.2 faster than Hartley. So he's catching Hartley, albeit at a slow pace. But we'll see here if Busa has enough to try to get around Hartley. And Hartley definitely doesn't want to give this up, because this is a great chance for him to gain some positions over DJ Alessandrini. DJ's only got up into 9th so far.
Yeah, and we've seen how difficult it is to pass. I'm curious to see how far down or how far up DJ will be able to gain back positions.
Okay, and just got another word from Race Control. They're pretty busy tonight. I don't know if this is the same incident. I believe it is saying involving the 24, the 21, and the 10.
Yeah, that's the same incident.
Okay, so that's under review.
There might have been an incident just with the 21 and the 24 before that spin that we saw the 24 take, but I didn't see it. But I definitely know that the 10 was involved in that incident that sent the 24 around. A couple of cars trailing off course there. But another big... This is going to help the 34 Busa, because he has that long straightaway to draft up to leader Robert Hartley, and no chicane to break the momentum.
Yeah, and he sends it in tight, so he's taking a pretty tight line around the keyhole. Hartley's aiming for the run off the corner.
And battle for 4th on behind them. That's Jonathan White taking a look at Paul Darling. And again, Jonathan White slowly the last couple weeks has been working his way forward, looking for an inside the top 5 spot right now on Paul Darling.
Yeah, so the top 2 slowly starting to break away from the rest of the field. This is kind of the opposite of what we saw in the first race, where we had a big pack of 7 cars. It's pretty much down to 2, although the guys behind are still pretty close. Here comes Jonathan White trying to make a pass on Paul Darling.
Yeah, that's Chris Henn putting pressure on the 22 as well, as they head through the trees and then through the far side of the course. And DJ Alessandrini's worked his way up into 8th and now trying to get back to 7th. That's Nathan Saxon in that spot, chasing this battle for 4th that we're watching. But those front 2, as you said, Finian, gaining ground and getting distance away. And Peter, this is a common thing you see in any kind of MX-5 racing, is just to get 2 drivers to work together and pull away. How effective is that when you're just one-on-one?
It's very effective, especially at a tighter track like this. More technical track. If you work together, you can really run pretty quickly and pull little gaps to the field, and it really helps that if the cars behind you are racing.
And Busa, look at the speed he's carrying through turn 1, balancing over the curbs, running out a bit wide on the exit at turn 1. Watch those incidents. You see a lot of drivers clipping the edge of the grass and knocking those cones out of the way. Look at the 22 crossing over Paul Darling down into turn 2, and he'll have a look and might get this spot away.
When Henn tries to look to the outside, he clips some grass, though, and the 55 Darling runs way wide. The 22 is going to get that spot.
It's a spot away, and now behind them, that's Chris Henn and the 41 of Nathan Saxon battling. I don't think Jonathan White's in the clear just yet, though. Darling's right back and taking a look to the outside, heading down into turn 4.
And White's going to make him take the long way around to Darling, trying to get the spot back that he had. Battle for 4th.
Up the outside comes the 55. Not going to be enough. Maybe he'll try to cross over the 22. White's in a little bit deep, drifts out, clips the grass with the left side tires. That's a dangerous thing to do. And here comes Chris Henn. He drills the 55 in the back end, gets him upset as they crest the hill.
Well, that could have been very dangerous. Update on the incident between the 91 and 34. No action will be taken.
Yeah, I agree with that call there. Racing incident for sure. I think 34 had the nose in there. The 91 just didn't see him, didn't know he was there, and turned in. And that's what caused that incident. DJ might think differently, but stuck back in 8th right now, trying to claw his way back up towards the top 5. Jackson Robillard dropping down the... Oh, he's back. Just an internet issue there.
I do have an update. So Robillard is going to get black flag for the incident.
Oh.
Involving him with the 24 and the 21.
And I think that was leaving the race, I think, is what happened here. I'm just looking back at a replay to see if there's any other accident. But, so what was the penalty that was assessed?
Drive-through.
So drive-through penalty, but he was chosen to step out of the race car. So it'll be a penalty for the 10 of Robillard, the second one tonight, for contact on the opening lap. I think that's a little bit harsh for the 10. But either way, penalized, and he'll end his race there. Battle for the lead, Hartley and Busa. They had a lead on Jesse Stevens in the 13, but Stevens beginning to reel them back in. Now Chris Henn trying to get 5th on Paul Darling.
Yeah, this battle is definitely heated up between these guys.
About 20 minutes left. Henn looked to make a dive at the inside of turn 4, didn't do it, but he certainly thought about it. And behind Nathan Saxon, trying to get away around.
Yeah, and again, these guys have to be pretty careful too, because the Edmonds race control is showing they're not taking anything lightly. They're gonna assess it, and they're not afraid to hand out penalties. So you want to be careful when you try to make moves like that.
Yeah, the administrators have definitely been heavy-handed with the penalty giving, and part of that is to clean up the racing a little bit. I think we saw some people get a bit upset in the previous couple races with some of the actions that were going on. We see Busa sideways through the final sector of the course, trying to catch up to Hartley. Lost a bunch of ground there. But yeah, you don't want to make a mistake and get yourself a penalty. And I think Jax Robillard, the frustration of being penalized twice in one night, that's what's removed him from this race. DJ Alessandrini slowly trickling his way back towards that top group of cars. He can finish as high up as 4th if he can just get back to this group right in front of him here.
Yeah, I don't know. He seems to be just a little bit off the pace. Actually, he was quite a bit faster, so he actually might catch these guys. It looked like he was struggling at one point, but he's found some pace back in that car.
And as Peter, when we talk about drafting, yes, it helps speed you up, but I think once you get a group of a lot of cars, it can actually slow you down. Tell us a little bit about, why that might be the case, why the field might get slower when you have more cars in it.
Yeah, well, it's basically just that everybody further back in the pack just gets stacked up, and you can only go as fast as the leader goes unless you pass him, and it's just really hard to try to maintain that pace. Each car back to the corner, and they get a little bit faster on the straightaway, so it's just a balance, and help the second group or third group behind you catch up and catch the draft off of your pack. Cars aren't quite as fast.
We watched Chris Henn and Nathan Saxon go side by side through turn 4. Henn held on to the spot. Whoa, DJ's way off track behind Benny, and he is just driving every little bit of speed he has out of that car and trying to catch back up to this group. But what about the incident limit? That could hurt him as much as 2 or 3 points in the standings. You don't want to get yourself those kind of penalties because they will knock your points lead down pretty quickly.
Yeah, and again, as a driver, you gotta be careful, figure out, which is the best option to do. So Alessandrini is still trying hard, though. But if he can catch this pack, that should be about 4 positions if you get around all these cars by this pack led by Jonathan White in 4th.
Well, you're doing the math in your head, right? Because if you gain 4 spots and lose 2 to penalty points, you've made a net gain of 2. But if you don't get those spots and get those penalty points, you've lost a net of -2. So you don't really want to. You kind of want to do that math in your head and figure out if the risk versus reward is worth it. This battle for 4th continues to rage with Jonathan White, Darling, Henn, Saxon, and Alessandrini now part of it. Behind it's Steve Ficacci, kind of in no man's land. Mitchell Peak right behind him. And then back in 11th, there's a little bit of a battle. Jack Sanchez, Thomas Bressis, and Noah Wilson all fighting for 11th.
And Zanone Wilson, even though he got that penalty going back to the end of the longest line, starting in 17th, he's up into 12th, so decent recovery for him, and he's trying to get some more spots as he's got Bresci ahead of him.
17 minutes to go. You see the cones getting knocked over on the straightaway. That's Sam Scott. Sam Scott was slow on the second lap around, and we're not exactly sure why, but he lost a bunch of spaces. We look back at Zanone Wilson taking a look to Thomas Bresci. He's going to get this spot away and around the outside. And can Bresci fight back? He tries, and I think he'll clear this 84. Nope. Yes, he will. Let's jump back up to the 4th place battle. Now it's really for 5th, as Jonathan White has begun to stretch out by about 2 car lengths on Paul Darling. It's Chris Henn, Nathan Saxon, DJ Alessandrini in behind, and DJ is definitely within drafting range, about 0.6 of a second back.
And now the problem for Alessandrini is trying to navigate all these cars, and these guys are not slow. These are very fast drivers in front of him too. So, and they're also fighting for their own points. So they're just not going to roll over just because he's the points leader. If anything, they're going to hold him up even more.
Right. I think that's the challenge for DJ, is that everyone knows that he's one of the best drivers in the field, and that, you know, if they have a chance to kick him while he's down, they're going to do that. So right now they're in a line, and they're looking at that blue number 91 coming, and they're certainly going to make their cars wider than an MX-5 normally is.
Yeah, one guy I think we need to start talking about too is Jesse Stevens. He slowly reeled in this front pack. He was separated by a decent amount. While the rest of the pack has pretty much lost the leaders, Stevens has been gaining on them. So he's effectively joined this battle. So it's a 3-way battle for the lead here as we got half the race to go.
Stevens has a little scuff on that front bumper, so he's leaned on somebody tonight.
I think that was from the start.
It was a very, very, very tiny mark on that front bumper, but he has caught up to Matt Busa, who hasn't really been able to do a whole lot with Robert Hartley, as we have a pass for position. Chris Henn has gotten around Paul Darling for 5th place. Now let's go back and take a look at the postman, sending it down here into turn number 4. On the outside, too.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, that's honestly the best way to make that pass, because you can see he gets the inside lane in the next corner. So a smart move for the 33, moves him up a spot.
And it hangs onto it for now. Meanwhile, Thomas Bresci and Jack Sanchez have traded spots again for 11th. Bresci gets on through. And Sam Scott has chased this group down. There's Mark Snodgrass in the back, has finished last in race number 1 and not running very well in this race either. He's going to finish 15th if he doesn't gain any more spots as we head back to 5th place. As Paul Darling has now Nathan Saxon to worry about. Saxon, it was really competitive at the beginning of the season, has had some good runs, but tonight really hasn't shown himself to be a race-winning driver. He's certainly been a top 10 driver for sure, though.
Yeah, Saxon currently 3rd in the points, but yeah, not having the best of nights tonight, but I mean, still running decently in 7th, and still has a chance to gain a few spots here.
Into the braking zone now, and again, we said this would open up a passing opportunity. I don't think we've seen anybody really make a pass down in the keyhole yet. I think maybe we're reserving that for the last lap, as Matt Busa is keeping the 0-3 in touch. I just don't know if he's got the pace to get by the 0-3.
He looked like he was tempted to make a pass here, and yeah, I think a lot of the race where you haven't been seeing more passing attempts, I think people are afraid that as soon as they make the pass, the guy behind was just gonna go back at them the next lap.
And maybe we're not seeing Matt to his full extent yet. He could be waiting. Again, Matt Busa drives for William Esports and has had kind of a rough championship in regards to the Peak Antifreeze series this year, and trying to turn things around a little bit. He's still definitely in the championship hunt for this race, as Nathan Saxon and DJ Alessandrini fight for 7th behind.
Oh boy, and Alessandrini, there's an off track there, and he's going to be alongside Saxon as they head towards the carousel.
I don't know what DJ's incident count is up to yet, but I don't think he counts. Oh, a little bit of contact with the 41 knocks him a little bit wide, and not a huge bit of contact, but certainly going to upset Saxon a little bit. DJ used him up, and now sets his sights on 6th place Paul Darling, and all these cars now looking in the mirror, seeing that blue car coming. And Busa trying to just keep that 0-3 right in front of him within striking distance. I just don't know if this front straightaway, or the straightaway between turns 1 and 2, is long enough to really draft effectively.
Ooh.
But Hartley runs a bit wide.
Yeah, Busa looked like he tried to make a pass to the inside, couldn't get it done. But he's pretty close in behind the 0-3, so if he can get a decent run, he might be able to make a move by 4.
And for 4th place, Jonathan White has Chris Henn attacking from behind, and Henn is definitely hungry. But I still agree with you. I think this straightaway here, Finian, where Busa is now, is the best opportunity to take a look at the inside of Hartley, but he waits that time through. I think he's just kind of sizing up Hartley to see how much draft you can really get on that back straight.
Yeah, my concern, though, is that I feel like we might see something similar to what we saw in the first race, where Busa waits to the end and then tries to make a pass and just has either no tire lift or just not enough pace to get around the 0-3.
So, Peter, after watching race number 1 and seeing the unsuccessful pass attempts by Hartley on DJ Alessandrini, what does Busa have to do now? Do you think you should definitely make the move before the white flag, or do you think you should just be a lot more aggressive with a move on the white flag?
It's tough to say. It's just a strategy call. I think he should, if I was him, I'd probably still make it on the white flag lap. Wait as long as possible, but it definitely has to be a very aggressive move.
So with only 11 minutes to go, we're 2/3 of the way through this race, and now the sizing up begins. Let's just ride on board with Busa here and just watch how much he closes in on this lead 0-3.
Yeah, he's been pretty good down in turn 2. Takes a tighter line than Hartley.
Tries to apex later, but the keyhole is exactly 180 degrees, and a lot of late apex corners, I kind of liken it to the carousel at Watkins Glen. Now, Watkins Glen is definitely a much wider corner, much less tight radius. It also has banking, but it's not quite 180 degrees. So you can take that a few different ways. You can apex late, you can ride around the bottom, you can ride around the top. There's a bunch of different ways you can run that corner. Mid-Ohio, the keyhole is very particular, and if you don't hit that line quite right, you're going to run wide on exit, and Busa's just trying to figure out how to run that line right.
And behind them, Chris Henn has gotten around Jonathan White, so Henn now up into 4th place.
We'll quickly go back and see how this happened, and it was probably another pass down into turn 4, and yes it was. Here's a look from up above. Got to the inside heading down into turn 4 and just cleared the 22. And he's a ways back from 3rd place Jesse Stevens, but Chris Henn certainly on the move this race and has figured out how to make that car go faster. He started tonight in 7th. He's up 3 spots and trying to keep that going. Where's DJ Alessandrini? Still stuck in 7th. Definitely taking him a while to get back through the field. It goes to show how important qualifying is, and if you lose that track position, it can be really hard to get back.
Yeah, especially considering the importance of the draft, because right now he has absolutely no chance, really, of catching the leaders by himself. And, ooh, Henn goes way wide in turn 1, nails the cones. And here comes a run from Jonathan White on the outside.
Oh, wow!
Oh, he goes to the inside.
Big move by Jonathan White to the inside lane, and he's going to have a run to the inside of Chris Henn. And that was one little mistake by the 33 that's going to compound and make that pass for the 22 just that much easier. And it's going to be a drag race down the back straight.
I was going to say, it's not done yet. Chris Henn's got a phenomenal run out of the keyhole, and as they race off into turn 4, we see him make the pass on the outside once. I think we're going to see him do it again.
All you have to do is maintain that superiority on the outside lane through the right-hander, then you're good to go. But Jonathan White breaks in deep. The 33 is going to roll around the outside lane, door-to-door, wheel-to-wheel, and the 33 is going to pull ahead, but the 22 stays alongside as they head down the hill. He slides out wide, slipping and sliding over those tires.
Yeah, he's just able to get right back in front of Paul Darling, who was definitely looking for a position, and Darling almost runs Alessandrini off the track trying to defend his spot.
It's getting really aggressive back here for the 4th spot. After Henn's mistake, it's bottled up this whole group of cars, and DJ trying to take advantage of it behind Paul Darling. And DJ and Paul have raced together in the Washington, D.C. region SCCA iRacing League. That race is Wednesday nights in the winter on SimTV. But
yeah, these guys have been, they've had quite a bit of time to race around each other too, so.
Top 7, kind of in their own category. Nathan Saxon and No Man's Land behind. But I'm just watching this lead and watching Busa just kind of reel that 0-3 back in, testing the waters. Does he make a move here? This is still far too early, I would think, to make a move for the lead.
Yeah, I definitely think Busa is waiting. Ooh, almost hits Hartley in the back. But definitely think he's going to be waiting. If anything, he might just wait for Hartley to make a mistake. Although Hartley has been yet to do so tonight so far.
On the long back straightaway again, the draft very important here. Busa. Oh, we got Paul Darling. I think he's spun around. Yes, he's off. in the keyhole with some significant rear end damage. He's off the racetrack.
And guess who hit him?
Oh no!
Setting him off the track.
Here's a look from up above, and this is almost certainly going to be a penalty for the 91 of DJ Alessandrini. Yeah, just missed the braking zone and punted the 55. Hard impact into the tire barrier. We're just saying how these guys have raced each other. Well, we haven't seen them do this a whole lot. That's crash.
And Paul Darling, his day is effectively done. That's way too much damage to his car.
That's a real shame. Was having such a good run. And I expect in the moment to hear over the radio that incident between the 91 and 55, it will be under review, but we have not heard that just yet. And Finian will update us when we do get that information.
Yep, and there's the message. 91, incident between the 91 and the 55 is under review.
Yeah, that's going to be really not great for DJ. It'll drop him back somewhere in the 12th to 14th region. It's going to lose him a bunch of points, and that's going to let Robert Hartley gain on him in the points this round, and we'll have to check in next round to see really where that he'll stack up. But yeah. Go ahead.
I could tell right now, tell you guys right now, he is 22 points. The separation between Alessandrini and Hartley. So I think Hartley is probably licking his chops right now.
Oh, here comes the battle for the lead. Here comes Busa to the inside. 5 laps to go, and the 34 takes a look, and he's going to have it. And now it's going to be a drag race down the back straight. But look at the run Hartley gets. He'll be able to defend for now.
I think that's the problem a lot of these people are having. They're sending it up the inside in the keyhole, but then the guy on the outside gets such a good run down straightaway. And there you see Hartley's able to clear him before they get to the corner, but Busa going to try to get another draft. And here he comes up the inside.
Yeah, he's not done yet. Takes another look to the inside of that 0-3. He's going to have this run. Hartley, contact between the leaders. Door to door, wheel to wheel. And Hartley going to defend, and he'll take that spot back. Busa's not done fighting yet.
Yeah, he's not done. He's setting up another pass in turn.
Oh, there it is! Contact!
Oh, contact!
Hartley gets all sorts of sideways. Here comes Jesse Stevens to take the lead away.
Wow, through the needle he will go. Jesse Stevens is our leader now. Busa back at square one in second place.
Wow, this is huge for Hartley because he's not going to just lose one spot. He's going to lose 2 or 3 and fall all the way back, actually make that 4 spots back to 5th. Whoa, Chris Henn way out wide over the edge of the curb with 5 to go. All hell is broken loose here as the 0-3 loses a bunch of ground.
Oh, here he comes with the pass, and Chris Henn, he wants that spot back. Jonathan White on his outside. These guys are going all out, and here you see Hartley now with Alessandrini.
These two are the points leaders. DJ probably will get a penalty assessed within the next lap or two, and Hartley, all that advantage he had over DJ if he were to get that penalty, was just erased in one quick moment. But for the top spot, it's Jesse Stevens who's stolen the lead away after Matt Busa and the 0-3 Hartley got together. I don't think we're done seeing these guys battle just yet.
Oh yeah, Busa's got a hell of a run heading down to the keyhole. He's going to look around the outside as Stevens as they're both late on the brakes.
And Busa was running in front of this 13 before that contact. I don't think we're done just yet. They both run a little bit wide out of the keyhole there. And now it's a drag race down the back straight again.
Yeah, and Stevens is kind of a sitting duck at the moment as far as getting a run. Busa's going to look to the outside.
Into the turn number 4 area. And we've seen people on driver's left do a very good job of hanging on, but Jesse Stevens in contention for a victory if he can hang on to Matt Busa. Side by side with about 4 laps left in this race.
And they're going to continue at it. We saw contact here last time.
This time they get through cleanly. Side by side still. Matt Busa goes back to the top spot here at Mid-Ohio.
Update on the incident between the 91 and the 55. No action will be taken.
Ooh, DJ got really lucky there. No action for the 91. He will not get a penalty. He'll be able to continue racing with Robert Hartley just in front of them as they battle for 5th spot.
I'm sure Hartley's going to probably be disappointed at that as he's effectively lost any advantage he had over the 91 of Alessandrini.
And that was an opportunity for Hartley, and neither of those two things went his way. If he didn't get turned around, he would still be leading this race, and if DJ had gotten penalized, it would have certainly shortened that points lead, but not to be tonight. Hartley's in 5th now, fighting with DJ Alessandrini for the top spot. It's Busa by half a second over Jesse Stevens with now 2 laps to go. That's what our scoring monitor says, 2 minutes and 40 seconds left. Chris Henn and Jonathan White, they're battling for 3rd right in front. Jonathan goes to the outside. Henn defends on the inside lane.
Oh, White turns in early, trying to pinch the 33 down to the inside.
Down the hill onto the back straightaway, and a big run And which line does Robert Hartley choose to push? It's going to be the driver that looks alike. It's going to be that 22 of white that's going to get the help. No, Hartley's going to move over to the middle of the racetrack. Will he try to go 3 wide up the middle? No, he's going to help the 33 ahead. Gives a big push.
Yeah, he's going to give a big push to him, although he's going to be on the outside of the 22 heading to the next corner. We'll see how this plays out.
So a stack up here. Hartley over the curbs. DJ to the inside of Hartley. And that's Jonathan White in the other cream machine, trying to follow the 33 on through, but it's side by side between Hartley and White.
Ooh, and here comes Alessandrini. Now he pokes his nose to go side by side with Hartley. This can end ugly.
Yeah, they ran each other right out to the edge of the racetrack, so Jonathan White will protect fourth for now. Chris Henn takes away with third. It'll be white flag this time by for leader Matt Busa. Jesse Stevens follows in behind by 0.4 of a second, then back for fourth. It's absolute chaos between White, Hartley, Alessandrini, and Saxon.
Ooh, Alessandrini missed the last corner. He lost a lot of time to Hartley.
Ooh, Saxon was off course as well. But for the top spot, with 1 minute and 12 seconds to go, they cross the line. That'll be white flag one more time around Mid-Ohio in round number 5 of the 2019 SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge. Stevens has a big run. Can he do anything with it on the back of Matt Busa?
Yeah, definitely gained up a lot of time that he would have potentially lost in the last lap, so he's definitely there. I don't think he's close enough to make a move here, but now it's going to be a matter of setting it up down for turn 4.
Ooh, Busa drove in really hard here, slips up in the middle of the corner. Stevens gets a pretty late apex. Is he going to have enough of a run? I think he'll have one here, but is it going to be enough, Finian?
He might dive it. He might lick the stamp.
For the top spot, half a lap to go. Matt Busa trying to defend from Jesse Stevens. Stevens takes a look to the inside. Busa defends on the outside lane. An interesting choice here into the braking zone for turn 4. Busa hangs on for the top spot as they jump the curbs.
Yeah, Stevens is going to play it patient here, though, again, running out of passing opportunities.
A dogfight between the magenta and the purple car. The lead car, Busa, a William Esports driver. Jesse Stevens, a driver who's arguably had the worst luck of the entire field this season, trying to chase down this 34, but it might be too little too late as they enter the final sector of the course.
Yeah, here they come through, and if Matt Busa can get this win, he'll tie with Alessandrini for the most wins this season.
Remember what's on the line here. At the end of the season, the champion gets to test a real SPEC MX-5 race car at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Matt Busa's trying to realize his dream of auto racing. Through the final corner, he's got Jesse Stevens right behind. It will tie him for the most wins this season with DJ Alessandrini. One more corner. Busa is going to win. And Mid-Ohio coming to the line. Jesse Stevens close, but no cigar across the line. It's going to be about 1/10 of a second of difference as Chris Henn comes for third. White, Hartley, Alessandrini, Saxon, Ficacci, Mitchell Peak, Thomas Bresci will be your top 10. What a spectacular way to end this race.
Yeah, that was a fantastic race there.
And like we said, the stakes that are on the line, not only tonight, but this season, is a chance to drive a race car for real and a chance to kickstart your racing career. And Busa and Alessandrini have been the winningest drivers of the season. Jesse Stevens has had some terrible luck, but comes home second tonight. But Hartley arguably probably had that race kind of taken or thrown away from him, leading the race with DJ on kind of death row for the penalties, but the penalty wasn't assessed. Hartley got turned. They finished 5th and 6th, and Hartley only gains 1 point on the 91. Here's a look at your race result. I gotta take a deep breath. That was a wild one again. It's been spectacular racing every single round this season with a small field tonight. We had some aggressive driving out there, some penalties handed out. Jackson Robillard, 2 penalties, 1 in each race. Jonathan DeCouger ended up having an issue in this race as well. Paul Darling gets wrecked out after contact with DJ Alessandrini, but again, it's Busa at the top of the board, that Williams Esports car, and Jesse Stevens and the postman Chris Henn coming home with a podium finish. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back to interview your winner and a couple other drivers. Stay with us to hear it from them themselves. We'll be right back. Welcome back live to SimTV and Winding Road Magazine for round 5 of the 2019 SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge. Here now with winner Matt Busa, William Esports driver. Matt, tonight, race number 1, it was just coming to grips with the race car and the racetrack, but race number 2, we knew you'd be one to watch, and indeed you were, but there was some drama there between you and leader Robert Hartley. Just walk us through the race and those closing laps as you held off Jesse Stevens.
Yeah, that first race, you're right. It was my first laps with this car and track combo, and I spent the race practicing pretty much for the second race. And second race, I felt like going into it, I had enough pace to at least contend with the leaders up there, and we got a good qualifying run in. And yeah, I was following Hartley around and learning some more about braking points from him. And I knew my strong point over him was braking into the keyhole, and I got under him in there, and then I believe the next 2 turns he made contact with the second one, sending him off track. And I checked out the replay just briefly. I think he may have came down a little too much into me, but at the same time it was just hard racing. I don't really think there's any clear evidence of who was at fault. Just hard racing, nobody giving an inch, and some contact. And I saw he was able to still get top 5, so that's good.
Finian, I think Finian mentioned earlier that you have now tied DJ Alessandrini for the most wins this season. As you look ahead to the championship, is the consistency something to improve on, or are you just going to keep going and trying to get those wins to be competitive for that last race of the season where you can ultimately win the championship?
Yeah, I don't think consistency is going to be the biggest issue. I think the biggest issue is just going to be making every race. I think I've missed 5 or 6 events so far, and I believe DJ has finished in the podium for every race except for this last race tonight. So as long as I can make every race, I think I'll be able to contend with him, and it should be a really good battle.
Any final words from Matt Busa and crew before we head into the next round in a couple weeks?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Williams Esports for all their support, and our sponsors, Chill Blast, Team Racer, BenQ Monitors, Playseat, Fanatic, and One All Sports. And thanks to you guys for broadcasting it, and everybody who participates in the league for the great racing and the league management.
All right, well, congratulations again to Matt Busa for winning yet another race this season. Matt, we'll see you at the next round in July. Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right, next we're going to talk to second place driver Jesse Stevens, driving the number 13 car. Jesse, we said earlier tonight that maybe you got some of the worst luck out there of anybody, but you were so close to getting a victory tonight at Mid-Ohio. What'd you need to get by that 34 car in the closing laps here?
Mainly patience. Mid-Ohio is really hard to pass to begin with. It only really has 2 passing zones, and then everywhere else, if you just hold the inside line or hold your line at all, it's hard to pass at all. So
talk to us about race 1 and race number 2, the differences between racing the layout with the chicane and racing it without. Which one did you prefer and why?
I prefer without, but that's mainly just a preference. That's the only layout I've raced on the sim. So the chicane was definitely a good little addition to it to try and figure out how to exactly navigate it without oversteering the car like crazy because of the weight transfer.
Mid-Ohio is certainly a very technical course. Do you prefer these technical, slower tracks to the faster ones that are more brute force and have more to do with the draft, or which one do you prefer?
I definitely prefer tracks more like this. Tracks that require a lot of precise threshold braking, I'm not that keen on, but a lot of tracks that have modular lines where you do a lot of trail braking and stuff like that, I like more than anything else.
All right, well, a second place result for Jesse Stevens in race number 2. Jesse, congratulations, and good luck in the next round in July.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Next, we're going to talk to the postman who finished 3rd tonight. It's Chris Henn driving the number 33. Chris, an incredible battle you had with a bunch of drivers, including Jonathan White, Robert Hartley, and some others in there in race number 2. Just walk us through both races tonight, but especially race number 2 and the incredible fights you had with those guys inside the top 5.
Yeah, the first race was really tough. I was a little off today. I figured I thought I was going to be a little faster, so it was really hard for me tonight. So every position was really tough for me to battle for.
I think tonight we saw more penalties this evening than we have all season combined. Did you feel the need to be more aggressive out there because it's been so difficult to pass at this racetrack?
It's so hard to be aggressive because, if you do, you're going to make contact, and you don't want to do that and take somebody out, because we're all friends out here. Rivals on the track, but we're friends, off the track. So we don't want to mess anybody's race up.
Certainly the performance for the 33 team has been increasing steadily over the course of the season. Another podium for you tonight. Do you feel like you're hitting your stride at the right time as we near the halfway point in the season?
Yeah, I mean, I have to do good now. This is my time to do good. I mean, I fell back in the points early in the season, so it's my own fault that I put myself in this position. To have to get top fives, top threes every race. But that second race, the top three, the third place was really, really tough for me to hold on to.
Well, a third place he held on to for sure, and about a half a second over fourth place Jonathan White. Chris, thanks for talking to us. Congratulations on another top three finish, and we'll see you in the next round in July.
Thank you, Kyle.
Absolutely. Next, we're going to talk to our driver who finished fifth place tonight in race number 2 and second place in race number 1, Robert Hartley. Robert probably had one of the quickest cars tonight, one of the quickest drivers, and then there was some contact with Matt Busa in race number 2. Just walk us through those closing laps and that contact with that 34.
Yeah, I was feeling good tonight. Felt like I had the car to win there, and Busa was sitting there behind me. I knew he was going to bring it on at the end, and we just got to racing, made contact once, and we both saved it. And then a couple of corners later, we made contact again, and we both about crashed. But lucky to save it, and had a good battle there with DJ and Chris and Jonathan for third place.
It seemed like tonight we saw a lot of penalties for contact being handed out left and right. And I asked Chris the same question, but do you feel like you can be as aggressive as you need to be, or are you worried about getting a penalty that might take you out of the championship hunt, especially later in the season?
You just got to drive with respect. You can make a little contact, door to door, but if you dive in on somebody and turn them around or something, you're going to get caught.
All right, well, Robert Hartley, again, a pair of top fives tonight. Going to keep him in the championship hunt, and as he gains a couple spots on DJ in race number 2, we'll look to see if Hartley can improve on that next round in July. Robert, thanks for chatting with us again, and good luck in the next round.
Thanks, guys.
For sure. And last but certainly not least, we're going to talk to tonight will be DJ Alessandrini, who we're quite used to talking to up here in the booth. DJ is now tied for the most wins this season alongside Matt Busa. DJ, tonight, certainly race number 1, he held on from pole and won the race, but race 2, a bit more of a struggle. Walk us through what happened on those opening laps and how you climbed your way back inside the top 10.
Yeah, race 2 was a little bit of a struggle. I was due to not have a podium finish one of these races, and I guess that was race 2. If 6th place is my lowest placing for the season, I think I'm doing okay. But we started, and I broke a little early, and Jesse got into me, which allowed Busa to get up right next to me. And then we both turned in and wanted that we both wanted the same inch of pavement, and I was the one that got the negative consequences for both being greedy. So. No hard feelings on Busa. I mean, that's just racing. We went for the same patch of pavement, and then I just started putting in some laps with a little bit of a frawl going on. So I was mad that I put myself in that situation where I could get spun, and I just started putting in laps. And right as I was catching those guys, I got a cut penalty, so then I had to catch them again, and then Hartley got spun around. So it was race 2 was a lot of fun, actually. I was having a good time.
We saw a lot of penalties being handed out. I know Jackson Robillard got 2 penalties, 1 in each race. We saw the 23 of Jack Sanchez get a penalty and a few others. Were you worried after the contact with the 55 of Paul Darling that you might get a penalty that may let the 0-3 Hartley close in the points?
Yeah, I was actually in Discord with Paul, and when I murdered him, I was saying sorry, probably to the point where I was annoying. and I thought I gave him enough room, and then looking back, it was net code by like 6 inches. If it was real life, I would have missed him by like an inch, which isn't enough room in iRacing, so I take full blame for killing Paul. Yeah, I got no damage from that, and Paul immediately broke a little early there, so that's one of the reasons why I wasn't fully clear. I take blame for that because I wasn't committed on what I was going to do, and that's what led to Paul having a retirement. So, Paul, if you're listening to this, sorry again for like the 1200th time.
All right, well, DJ Alessandrini is going to continue to lead the points heading into the next round in July. He's been the stronghold on top of the standings for the last few weeks, and we'll probably continue to see that in the future. DJ, thanks for chatting with us again, and we'll see you in the next round.
All right, thanks, Kyle.
Absolutely. Let's get to round out the interviews tonight, Finian. Race number 1, a little bit anticlimactic at the end, but race 2, all over the place, was spectacular. We saw a lot of contact, we saw a couple penalties, but incredible action up at the front.
Yeah, race 2, everything. I think all the passing that we didn't really see or thought we would have saw in race 1, I think that all pretty much happened in race 2, especially in the second half. As soon as Hartley went back in the field, it all kicked off between the fight between Busa and Stevens up in the front, and that midfield battle was absolutely phenomenal to watch. These guys put on a fantastic show.
Peter, some more spectacular racing. SPEC MX-5, or really MX-5s in general, just put on such good racing. Your thoughts coming out of Mid-Ohio?
I thought there were some very entertaining races. The second race had a lot of action, a lot of very aggressive moves that resulted in some contact, but nothing was too blatant. It's a really good battle.
All right, so more spectacular racing out here. We want to give a quick thank you again to all of the sponsors that help make this happen. Of course, they're scrolling along the top right of our ticker. LevelUp Racing School is one of the companies providing one of the season-end prizes. 2 days of LevelUp Racing School that you can win if you win the championship. Paradigm Ship Driver Development, we talked about them earlier tonight. You can find their information in the video description, but helps with driver training, a different method of training drivers in the 21st century, and their website's got all sorts of resources and track maps. Winding Road Racing, race gear, and race cars, again, for allowing us to use their YouTube channel and providing support for this series. And of course, RacWay high-performance sim racing equipment. You can see all their products at www.racmotech.com. They've got some spectacular stuff there. I wish I had some, which I would love a little personal sponsorship, but no can do. So we're going to continue on with the next round coming up in a few weeks. It'll be in July. But we want to thank everyone for joining us tonight from Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. My name is Kyle Heyer, alongside Finian DeCuna, my left-hand man, and then Peter Enzer coming in tonight after his busy weekend at Road America and the Global MX-5 Challenge. We want to give a special thank you to Tom O'Gorman again, who we interviewed at the beginning of the night, for taking time out of his own night after at a restaurant, nonetheless, to give us a quick interview before the race started. So if you joined in late and missed Tom O'Gorman's interview, he was at the very beginning of the broadcast. He's racing in the Michelin Pilot Challenge on Saturday at Watkins Glen in the 4 hours there on Saturday afternoon. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in July. Have a great night, and thank you again.